Hello, Book Boys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Book Boys Experience. I'm joined by my good friend Phil in person for our third installment of Atlas Shrugged.
Hello.
This will be our final episode of Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, basically we're talking about the finale of the book and the big Galt speech that it is kind of known for most, where Ayn Rand drops some epic objectivist bombs.
The cynics will say this is the only bit of the book you need to read. But we think different here. We like to read the book from beginning to end.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we left off last time with this kind of falling apart world, and Galt is bringing he's revealing himself to the world that he withdrew all the resources from, all the human resources, so to speak.
He's doing it via hijacking this national radio station, which, Bertram Scudder's radio show, and delivering the longest and kind of like Zarathustrian levels of density, just like bombs, like boom, 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 60 pages. It's great. It's incredibly long, but it's great.
So we're going to just pick some quotes to take apart what he's actually saying here, which is what Ayn Rand is saying about her philosophy, I guess. And let's go, I guess. Quote number 16.
Yes. My morality, the morality of reason, is contained in a single axiom. Existence exists, and in a single choice, to live. The rest proceeds from these. To live, man must hold three things as the supreme and ruling values of his life: reason, purpose, self-esteem. Reason as his only tool of knowledge. Purpose as his choice of the happiness which that tool must proceed to achieve. Self-esteem has his inviolate certainty that his mind is competent to think, and his person is worthy of happiness, which means is worthy of living. These three values imply and require all of man's virtues, and all his virtues pertain to the relation of existence and consciousness: rationality, independence, integrity, honesty, justice, productiveness, pride. I think this is like maybe one of the best quotes in the book. Like, in terms of like, not just explaining what objectivism is, but as just like a pretty inarguable kind of philosophy.
It is very neatly summed up here. I guess, just reading this, though, it doesn't really, like, you don't intuitively understand what that actually means, though, right?
Yeah. So I do want to break this down. So we've talked about axioms before, like our axiomatic beliefs. And I remember when we studied John Stuart Mill in university together, we basically tried to kind of like figure out what are our highest values, and and within like John Stuart Mill's philosophy and utilitarianism, rural utilitarianism, what is like the baseline belief that which these utilitarian rules are created from. And I think we established that living is good is like the baseline. And I thought a lot about that sense. And, we can talk all about moral relativism, but I think there has to be some kind of agreed on axiom that like we all kind of agree to. And if it weren't true, then it wouldn't be the case that we were living if we didn't think life was good.
This was the Camus thing, right? If might as well kill yourself if you don't agree that living is good.
Exactly. So living has to be good. And I think like when I'm thinking of like what objectivism is or what I think it means, it's like trying to grasp at truth where truth exists. And insofar as you can prove that something's true, then that's something that you should really cherish and hold on to. And everything else, is like this kind of back and forth between other people figuring out, okay, gravity is real. Next, blah, 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 blah. So the first one I know is like, I think we can all agree on is like living is good, and if it's not good, then you have not the same moral philosophy, and you would be dead.
Yeah, and I guess it is here expressed as purpose, as your choice to pursue happiness and self-esteem, as your person being worthy of that happiness, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the whole idea of existence existing, it sounds like trivial, but it's kind of the whole objective of all of the parasites in this book is to convince you that existence doesn't exist and that truth doesn't exist, and like.
Yeah, and she, in the speech, we always hear about this A is A thing.
Yeah.
One thing is one thing that, it is an objective reality. It's a kind of, I think it's a kind of Aristotle thing also. I'm not super brushed up on my Greeks, but I think
brushed up on my Greeks.
I think a lot of this is like from Aristotle.
Yeah.
And then she kind of put this Nietzschean structure on top and a bunch of Ayn Rand sprinkles to make it original. But so what do you mean by saying that the villains in this book are trying to convince us that A is not A, that existence doesn't exist?
What do I mean by
give me an example, like
well, example that soybeans make an excellent substitute for coffee is like a I think an A equals B scenario.
Sure. But I guess in like the whole they're kind of the way they perceive or the way they live in the economic sphere, I guess, is the biggest point. I feel like for this whole, like, I mean, again, we talked about this last time, but this progressive income tax kind of thing, and that, like, we're gonna.
Well, it's the, like, for example, an apple simply grows from a tree, and there's nothing about a farmer that actually creates that.
Yeah.
And therefore, or rather, there's nothing that we understand about the farmer's actions that leads to that. We just see him as like this thing that produces apples.
Yeah, I mean the whole insistence on, I guess, distribution of resources, right? It's like the whole Marxist, like, we've solved production, now we need to tackle distribution kind of thing.
Yeah, post-scarcity.
Yeah, post-scarcity, that kind of shit. Is like ignoring the fact that the distribution, or I guess the lack of a force that redistributes, so to speak, all the shit that's produced is what makes production possible.
Yeah.
As soon as you start removing the incentives, and now this is, as soon as we use the word incentive, this is going to become a more like Austrian economics thing, which is not necessarily what Rand is saying, but
right.
As soon as you remove the incentives for certain production, then there is not going to be an apple tree, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good to move on to the next quote.
Cool. So the next quote I think was quite useful for me, and I spoke about in the last episode about like understanding objectivism and what it actually is, and kind of misunderstandings of it. This is the short quote. It goes, "When I disagree with a rational man, I let reality be our final arbiter. If I am right, he will learn. If I am wrong, I will. One of us will win, but both will profit." And I thought this was quite interesting because when we hear like uninformed critiques of objectivism, I've seen it kind of be like, the critique of objectivism is like, oh, look, you've just named your thing like I am always rightism, like, effectively. Right. And it's like this argument that there's no like pure rationality. And I think the misunderstanding there is that and this kind of is general conversation about the truth as well that I wanted to talk about in the last episode, is that like I don't think that people will say the truth is subjective, but I think what they really mean is the truth is kind of unclear.
Yeah.
And there are things that we know to be true, and there are things that we believe are true but aren't. But it's often used in kind of a cynical strategy to get people to abandon the idea of an objective truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what Ayn Rand is trying to say here is that, yes, like, what I believe in is the existence of truth, not necessarily that my ideas or the ideas that I talk about in my book are necessarily that truth.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they are that truth, but I invite anyone to challenge me on it.
Yeah.
And we see who comes out as the winner, basically. And in that sense, it's not like she doesn't have this like philosophy that she's preaching necessarily. It's more like this quite universal, just this universal, all-encompassing belief that like anything can be true, anything can be false.
Yeah, I like what you wrote in our notes, which is rationality is learned through interaction with existence and not innately knowable.
Yeah.
It's like this, and this goes back to this A is A thing. Existence exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same to Rand. That statement to Rand is simply what rationality means, right? Like you.
Yes. Yeah.
You I don't know if we talked about like deceiving yourself into a position that you're not qualified for last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you apply for a job that you're not qualified for, and somehow through some sneaky, slimy tactics you end up getting in, you will find out very soon that existence exists.
Yeah.
Which is to say that you're not up to the task.
Yeah.
And there's that you can't cheat that, and I guess Rand would say that would be acting unrational.
Yeah. And I think within that as well, there's also kind of a claim here that to state that A is not A is to actively attempt to deceive another person.
Mm-hmm.
And that what is considered kind of what is kind of argued from the cynical characters in this book, that things aren't just pure calculation. There has to be some space in the world for feeling, etc. I think what this means is actually Rand is saying that these people are utilizing A as B as a strategy, as a perfectly rational strategy for their own means, for their own ends, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they use A is not B because it works in their favor,
mm-hmm.
and in their like twisted self-interest.
I don't know if I would go with that fully. Like, it's not that it works in their favor.
That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah, she probably would say, like, if they were truly acting in their favor, they wouldn't act that way. They are acting against their favor and their fellow man's favor. I guess why are they doing that?
It's tricky because I think they are. It is kind of, there is some motivation towards status. There's some motivation towards money. There's some motivation towards, all of these benefits. The sense of feeling like Hank Rearden and not really being him.
It's kind of the same discussion of selfishness, like in the Fountainhead. Are they acting selfishly or not?
Yeah.
Or is Rourke really the one who's selfish?
For sure. To give one final point on the innately knowable bit. So rationality is not innately knowable. I think one of my original kind of initial misunderstandings or misreadings of objectivism which you kind of get the impression from in the Fountainhead a lot, is that there's this kind of, you see one of Rourke's buildings and you just know there's something special about it. I think Fountainhead's interesting because it is like this there is this artistic discussion, and there's this kind of implication that you see these buildings, you just know that they're exceptional. But I don't think that's really what is actually what she's actually saying about.
I mean, some of the characters are able to tell, like Dominique and some of the guy who sponsors him, but the masses aren't able to tell it.
Exactly. Exactly. And like we said, like earlier in the previous episode, there's kind of a your instincts and these kinds of feelings aren't based on like nothing. They are based on your experiences and your understanding of the world and your like moral predisposition and stuff. Yeah, cool. Anyway, let's move on. This is a bit of a long one, but I'm going to just dive into it. Whoever, to whatever purpose or extent, initiates the use of force is a killer acting on the premise of death in a manner wider than murder. The premise of destroying man's capacity to live. Do not open your mouth to tell me your mind has convinced you of your right to force my mind. Force and mind are opposites. Morality ends where a gun begins. When you declare that men are irrational animals and propose to treat them as such, you define thereby your own character and can no longer claim the sanction of reason, as no advocate of contradictions can claim it. There can be no right to destroy the source of rights, the only means of judging right and wrong, the mind. To force a man to drop his own mind and to accept your will as a substitute, with a gun in place of a syllogism, with terror in place of proof, and death as a final argument, is to attempt to exist in defiance of reality. Reality demands of man that he act for his own rational self-interest. Your gun demands of him that he act against it. Reality threatens man with death if he does not act on his rational judgment. You threaten him with death if he does. You place him into a world where the price of his life is the surrender of all the virtues required by life, and death by a process of gradual destruction is all that you and your system will achieve when death is made to be the ruling power, the winning argument in a society of men.
Yes, sir.
Power quotes.
So this is the next step from basically the previous quote. So we've established that rationality is important and that A is A, and that you have to acknowledge existence as it is and not deceive yourself or others. Now the next step here is to say, okay, let's imagine someone, I guess it works with society today as well, but let's keep it simple and just say you're on an uninhabited island, you're in the wild, and rationality is your only tool that makes man special from animals, that enables you to survive. Using your mind according to your own ability is what keeps you alive. You figure out that fire makes things edible, and then you put things in the fire, you cook them, etc., etc. You learn that certain things are dangerous, and then act accordingly, and all fast forward that, and we end up with hospitals and highways, and that's all rationality. And so what happens when so what is she talking about by saying forcing people against their own mind with a gun?
I think she's saying that the only way to persist at this kind of irrational A as B existence is through the threat of violence and coercion.
So this is direct jab at government policy, right? Or even, I guess if you want to go further back, like kingdoms and that kind of thing. And just coercing people against their will. And she connects this to death very directly, which is kind of reminded me a little bit of Nietzsche in Zarathustra, who what was it? He called the clergy, I think he called the preachers of death or
Preachers
something.
of death, yeah.
Because they preach the world beyond earth, heaven and the afterlife. So it's like the value that they're the thing that they're longing for is death almost.
Yeah.
Instead of the life right here, right now. Yeah, reality threatens a man with death if he does not act on his rational judgment. You threaten him with death if he does. Can we come up with a specific scenario where that would be the case?
Reality threatens a man with death if he does not act on his rational judgment.
Okay, so if you don't work for yourself and you keep the fruits of your labor, you will starve. That's reality threatening you with death.
Yeah.
But you threaten him with death if he does. So if you keep the fruits of your labor, if you don't give them to the government, then
we'll put you in a cage.
Yeah, here comes the gun.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next quote. Just as your body has two fundamental sensations, pleasure and pain, as signs of its welfare or injury, as a barometer of its basic alternative, life or death, so your consciousness has two fundamental emotions, joy and suffering. Excuse me.
Nick, are you throwing up, Nick?
Just as your body has two fundamental sensations, pleasure and pain, as signs of its welfare or injury, as a barometer of its basic alternative, life or death, so your consciousness has two fundamental emotions, joy and suffering, in answer to the same alternative. Your emotions are estimates of that which furthers your life or threatens it, lightning calculators giving you a sum of your profit or loss. You have no choice about your capacity to feel that something is good for you or evil, but what you will consider good or evil, that will give you joy or pain, what you will love or hate, desire or fear, depends on your standard of value. Emotions are inherent in your nature, but their content is dictated by your mind. Your emotional capacity is an empty motor, and your values are the fuel with which your mind fills it. If you choose a mix of contradictions, it will clog your motor, corrode your transmission, and wreck you on your first attempt to move with a machine which you, the driver, have corrupted. If you hold the irrational as your standard of value, and the impossible as your concept of the good, if you long for rewards you have not earned, for a fortune or a love you don't deserve, for a loophole in the law of causality, for an A that becomes not A at your whim, if you desire the opposite of existence, you will reach it. Do not cry when you reach it. That life is frustration, and that happiness is impossible to man. Check your fuel. It brought you where you wanted to go.
Boom.
Oh, such a good quote. So this connects a lot to what we were, to this previous conversation, about innately knowable things, and your emotions. Here we're saying it's not just this simple, rational, cold, emotionless calculation with which you live your life, but there is room for emotions. And of course, all of these characters in Fountainhead are actually very emotionally expressive people, and all of Ayn Rand's writing itself is incredibly passionate. But yeah, the point is that your emotions are a kind of an expression of your rational mind in a way.
Yeah,
an expression of an understanding of the world that you can achieve through rational thought.
Yeah, of the values that you select for, basically.
Yeah.
Like what you choose to value higher than other things, what you strive for, that is completely up to you to choose. And your emotions will reflect in real time, as she said, lightning calculators.
Yeah.
Will reflect what you feel in that moment, depending on what values you have selected for it.
Yeah.
I think we talked last time about the tomato, right?
Exactly.
Based on simply a tomato, you might feel various things, whether you're a farmer or someone who is convinced that tomatoes are evil, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can imagine if you if your rational mind has come to the conclusion that taxation is theft, if you get some random bill in the mail telling you to pay, 100,000 euros as some kind of fine for some tax thing or whatever, you're gonna feel really bad about it. I mean, you would feel bad about it if it were 100 euros, you'd still feel bad about it, right? But if you didn't really care, if you'd never really thought about that, you'd probably be like, oh, the government needs more money from me. I guess I'll just pay this. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there's no one who thinks that way.
But oh, there are definitely people that think that way. 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
You're German.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's lots.
The last German person I spoke to was like that.
Who's that?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. There was something I wanted to mention on this. All right. Look, we've all been told from a young age that, you shouldn't be jealous of other people. And I think that's like the easiest to grapple with in this scenario. But there's other, like, you shouldn't do X, Y, or Z, or you shouldn't feel a certain way about this or that. And at some point you always think like, well, how can I help about how I feel? Right?
Yeah.
Like if I feel jealous because someone has a nicer car or they got the girlfriend that I wanted, then how can I help my feeling in that moment? And as we talked about last time, I think love is maybe slightly different. So let's stick with the simply jealous of a thing example or a position. But what Rand is saying is, if you acknowledge that existence exists, right? Mm-hmm. Then there is some perfectly real world, like, causal link why that person got the nice car and why you don't have it. Probably because they worked for it or whatever, or even let's say even if they didn't work for it and they didn't deserve it and they just happened to find it, it still existence exists. They have the car, you don't have it, and depending on what values you believe in, whether you believe that, first of all, whether jealousy is like a useful emotion to have, or whether you believe that really you are entitled to the nice thing and that your neighbor sucks and he's an asshole. Yeah. Which, might be true. Fair enough. But depending on how you set up your value structure, you can actually help the fact whether you feel jealous in those kind of situations or not. You might not be able to do that in real time the first time it happens, but if you interrogate your own values, I've done this in the past, for example, and I've had this conversation with my girlfriend recently. Like, I took this class in uni where a friend of mine, or not even really a friend, but just like a guy, he didn't understand anything in the whole class. And then when the final exam came, he was sweating balls, of course. So I wrote him like a one-page script of basically, if the question, it was physics class, by the way. Basically, if this kind of question comes up, you should select that kind of choice, without him having to understand any of the physics. And I'm not great at physics, by the way.
Yeah.
So I got like an okay grade in the class, but he, with my script, actually got a much better grade than me.
Really?
Even though he didn't understand fuck all. And I was like happy for him. I was like, good for you, man. And my girlfriend was like, she was kind of like, wouldn't you feel angry about that? Wouldn't you feel, I'm not necessarily jealous, but doesn't that make you upset?
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, no. And 2 or 3 years ago, I would have probably felt angry about that. But I guess, reading these kind of books that we've been reading and kind of convincing myself of which kind of emotions and values are useful,
right,
I kind of felt that in real life, like, oh yeah, I can actually say that I'm not angry about this,
right.
It is a direct outcome of my rational selection of certain values.
Right.
That I'm now not having this feeling.
What rational values do you think you selected for?
That's a difficult question. I guess the primary one would just be that jealousy is it's not useful.
Yeah.
Which is not to say, like, if you only convince yourself that jealousy is not useful, you will never be jealous.
No,
again.
of course.
It's not quite that simple. But it's also like, the realization that, you know, the misfortune of someone else is not gonna bring you fortune at all.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, but also this kind of Rorkean, like, I should only be focused on my own thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And if other people succeed or not, that's really, there's no link at all to my success in that.
Yes, I think that's definitely a good thought to hold in your mind. Be like Rourke.
Alrighty.
Next
one.
Yeah. As products of the split between man's soul and body, there are two kinds of teachers of the morality of death: the mystics of spirit and the mystics of muscle, whom you call the spiritualists and the materialists, those who believe in consciousness without existence and those who believe in existence without consciousness. Both demand the surrender of your mind, one to their revelations, the other to their reflexes. No matter how loudly they posture in the roles of irreconcilable antagonists, their moral codes are alike, and so are their aims. In matter, the enslavement of man's body; in spirit, the destruction of his mind. The good, say the mystics of spirit, is God, a being whose only definition is that he is beyond man's power to conceive. A definition that invalidates man's consciousness and nullifies his concept of existence. The good, say the mystics of the muscle, is society, a thing which they define as an organism that possesses no physical form, a super being embodied in no one in particular, and everyone in general except yourself. Man's mind, say the mystics of spirit, must be subordinated to the will of God. Man's mind, say the mystics of muscle, must be subordinated to the will of society. Man's standard of value, say the mystics of spirit, is the pleasure of God, whose standards are beyond man's power of comprehension and must be accepted on faith. Man's standard of value, say the mystics of muscle, is the pleasure of society, whose standards are beyond man's right of judgment and must be obeyed as a primary absolute. The purpose of man's life, say both, is to become an abject zombie who serves a purpose he does not know, for reasons he is not to question. His reward, say the mystics of spirit, will be given to him beyond his grave. His reward, say the mystics of muscle, will be given on earth to his great-grandchildren. Selfishness, say both, is man's evil. Man's good, say both, is to give up his personal desires, to deny himself, renounce himself, surrender. Man's good is to negate the life he lives. Sacrifice, cry both, is the essence of morality, the highest virtue within man's reach. Big ass quote. It's a good fucking quote. What we have here is the delineation of these two kinds of collectivism. One is like the spiritual religious collectivism, and the other is this social, more agnostic, I guess, kind of collectivism. And both of them say, yeah, we must sacrifice ourselves for others. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is a very great quote. I think it kind of reminds me of who is it? The Protestant work ethic, Max
Weber,
I
think, yeah.
Who wrote about basically how the religious imprint that was left on American society, in spite of there being no state religion, and maybe these same kind of ethics carry through when we talk about society. Okay,
so let's narrow down a bit. Who are the mystics of spirit specifically? Like, what kind of people are we talking about?
Religious leaders.
Yeah, religious leaders. Or could there be something beyond religion? I guess like spiritual.
Yeah.
Mostly religious, yeah. And then the mystics of muscle who is that?
Oh yeah, the mystics of muscle. What they say, mystics of muscle in society. Wait,
so
hang on, yeah.
that would
the
be
mystics
like
of muscle. They would be the people with the guns, basically.
yeah. So the kind of state religion almost,
Yeah.
for the sake of society, for the, you know, the globalists, the fascists, the communists, everyone, those kind of for the greater good kind of thing.
Yeah.
For the greater good right now here on Earth.
Yeah. Okay. Muscle in as in a physical, the meat of the body.
Yeah. I would say so. And then we have this very close link also to the Fountainhead here with the word selfishness, and how they identify that as the common evil from their perspective. And of course we have there was a very, very similar quote like this in the Fountainhead ending speech as well, where I forgot who was actually speaking. I might have been Rourke, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Rourke in the court scene, I think, actually. But
okay.
Anyways, it read something like, there's only all of these systems of belief, and at the time we noted that she lumps in very different ones all together. I think it was like fascism, Christianity, communism.
Right.
Like environmentalism didn't really exist at the time, but I think there was something similar like that.
Yeah.
And what all these systems of belief had in common was that they preached that selfishness, so that you're rational, looking out for your own interest, or as she would say, the acknowledgement that A is evil, and that instead what you should do is serve these abstract, intangible ideals that, as she writes in this quote, are either beyond the grave or we're told is for the next generations to come, like why we need to reduce CO2 right now, for example. And
when you refer to selfishness, mean like connecting it to A is A. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So like selfishness, or let's say the positive selfishness that Rand always speaks about, simply looking out for your own interest. I mean, let's go back to the guy who works because he's hungry, right? Guy's hungry, so he plants some crops, he works on them all year, and he wants to harvest them and eat them for himself.
He has food for himself then.
Yeah. And now like some gang of guys comes up and is like, well, we will represent all the hungry people in the neighborhood. Give me your crop, or give me 50% of your crop so we can feed all the hungry guys. Yeah. And definitely not us, of course.
Yes.
We're acting for the greater good. In that moment, the selfishness is very directly, of course, to not give them that stuff, but also linking that to the ASA thing. Is like, if you don't eat your own food, then you're gonna starve, like very directly. So like
you're accepting A is B, A is not A, when you bend the knee for the people coming for your crops. Yeah.
And or even worse, from their perspective, the people coming for your crops, right? The taxman, they have the ASB philosophy, right? So they're saying, give me your crop, and we will talk later about this blank out thing. But the question is, okay, but if we all just go around asking like, give me your crop, well, someone has to make the crop, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, how can you punish this guy for punish him, like, oh, you selfish cunt, you just want to feed yourself, that's why you're planting all this shit.
Exactly.
Like, okay, so then we'll stop planting and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. It's a little bit more on sacrifice, which is the other section, the other part of this like calculation with the spirit, the mystics. Sacrifice does not mean the rejection of the worthless, but of the precious. Sacrifice does not mean the rejection of the evil for the sake of the good, but of the good for the sake of the evil. Sacrifice is the surrender of that which you value in favor of that which you don't. If you exchange a penny for $1, it is not sacrifice. If you exchange $1 for a penny, it is. If you achieve the career you wanted after years of struggle, it is not a sacrifice. If you then renounce it for the sake of a rival, it is. If you own a bottle of milk and give it to your starving child, it is not a sacrifice. If you give it to your neighbor's child and let your own die, it is. If you give money to help a friend, it is not a sacrifice. If you give it to a worthless stranger, it is. If you give your friend a sum you can't afford, it is not a sacrifice. If you give him money at the cost of your own discomfort, if you give your friend a sum you can afford, it is not a sacrifice. If you give him money at the cost of your own discomfort, it is only a partial virtue, according to this sort of moral standard. If you give him money at the cost of a disaster to yourself, that is the virtue of sacrifice in full.
Yeah, so sacrifice is preached mostly in the classic religions, but, you know, even also in this kind of mystics of the muscle kind of, communitarianism, like for the greater good, for the sake of society. You have to sacrifice your SUV for the sake of the future planet. You have to sacrifice XYZ. And what Rand is saying here really is that sacrifice, you know, as a kind of concept, as the word itself, always just means to select for the bad, the evil over the good. Yeah. And she kind of illustrates this very intuitively. Yeah,
this is like a really excellent description of sacrifice that I've never come across before in my life. And it's really made me think a lot differently about a lot of things. It's like the sacrifice, it kind of like reminds me of this poverty mindset kind of thing we were talking about yesterday, or like this scarcity mindset, where it's like, in order to thrive, we have to sacrifice. We have to stop eating grain and start eating soybeans, or stop eating meat and start eating soybeans in order to protect our planet or guarantee our food supply. I think as well, maybe there's not, you wonder about like whether this is intuitive for people or not, because I think in a way it kind of is, but people do kind of suppress this a lot when they, if you're like forced to give money to some guy on the street that you don't want to give money to, like, it's a good way of thinking about it, like, oh, I've done something good, like, even though it's just directly, it's not benefited me at all, it's taken away from me. And we find comfort in the idea that we've sacrificed for someone that we don't know, and like, oh, look, this person's better off and they don't even know it, I'm so noble, when you really have no idea whether this person gives a shit or not, whether you've done anything for them. And in reality, you kind of judge people with the same kind of moral beliefs that you have, and assume that other people have those same moral beliefs, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, there are a lot of people who are, I mean, this is not to say that like this applies to all people, but like there are a lot of people who are pretty awful, and you give them something and they'll just take it from you without a second thought, and they won't say thanks, and they won't even think of it as like a favor, or as a nice gesture. And I think there is something about like doing things that are appreciated. There is something in that, I think, which is important. Like, not necessarily, maybe not for it being appreciated itself. Like, it's not like you didn't say please. You should have said please.
Stop with the JD Vance memes.
But there is like, maybe like part of the contract you have with someone socially, you do something and they appreciate it, and like that strengthens your relationship, or in the future that there was this kind of vague kind of value hanging above the heads of the two of you. You've chipped in a bit into that pot, and at some point that favor can come back to you, when you have like a trusting relationship with someone.
Yeah, but I guess then she would say that wouldn't be a sacrifice, right? If you think that you're actually...
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
So I think we use the word sacrifice sometimes not within the sense described here, and I guess wrongly. So and okay, let's say like freshly married couple with a baby, you know, saying like, oh yeah, of course we love the child, but you know, we've had to sacrifice our vacation to Bali or whatever to care for this child.
Yeah.
I guess Rand would say like, whether...
If you do say that, you're a monster, by the
way. I don't know. I mean, people use that word like casually without really thinking what it means.
Yeah.
But like, if I guess the point is, if it truly is a sacrifice to you, then that means that the vacation to you was more important than the child.
Yeah.
But if you only mean that, of course you love the child more, and we, you know, I guess not sacrifice, but we had to cancel the vacation, right?
Well, I think
that means that you just selected for the more important thing, the child, at the cost of the vacation, which is not a sacrifice, but a choice, a rational one.
Yeah, I think we hear this most commonly in the career example that she gave. Like, I sacrificed everything for this career. And it's like, okay, well, that's what you wanted, right? You got what you wanted. Like, why? Like, what are you even saying about this?
Yeah, then it's not a sacrifice, and you just selected what you wanted for what you didn't want over what you didn't want. Right?
Exactly, and there's something about that which I think is quite like, it's motivating in the way that it makes you think clearly about what you want. Like, okay, like we're always selecting for certain values and for certain goals and aims that we want. So like, is this a sacrifice or is this actually a benefit to you? And if it's a sacrifice, you want to stay the hell away from it.
Very good. Just quickly, we read Genesis before on the podcast. What about the classic sacrifice? What about the Isaac, the child sacrifice to God? I mean, he didn't end up doing it, of course, but you know, I guess in this kind of Randian term, what could we say about that?
Well, that was like a test of faith.
Mm-hmm. So would the biblical reasoning be like, God is the most important thing, so it is a sacrifice in the sense that you would select God over your family?
It would only be a sacrifice if your child was more valuable than God, you know? By Rand's definition of sacrifice.
Right. Yes. Yeah, true. Very good. Okay. So if the Isaac sacrifice really was a sacrifice, that would mean the father loved his child more than God, right?
Yeah, which would go against the mission, which is to prove your love for God by sacrificing the thing that you love the most.
And I guess that is...
Maybe that's why God stopped him from sacrificing the child. It's like, it's impossible for you to do that.
Maybe, but it's all... I mean, within this Randian view, like, I guess that's where we get this whole... Her disavowal of this spirituality and the mystics of the spirit and so on, because what they're all saying in the end, and have been for generation, if we think of like all kinds of, you know, just tribal rituals and sacrifices throughout human history, it's all, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're sacrificing a real tangible good, a life, maybe even a human life, or even if it's livestock or like a piece of food. You're sacrificing, you're giving up a real value for something intangible and essentially something irrational that doesn't exist, for zero, essentially.
Yeah.
You're giving up something for zero. That's what makes it a sacrifice, and that's what makes it evil.
Yeah. Okay. So there is another quote I will read from here. You propose to establish a social order based on the following tenets. If you're incompetent to run your own life but competent to run the lives of others, that you're unfit to exist in freedom but fit to become an omnipotent ruler, that you're unable to earn your living by the use of your own intelligence, but able to judge politicians and to vote them into jobs of total power over arts you have never seen, over science you have never studied, over achievements of which you have no knowledge, over the gigantic industries where you, by your own definition of your capacity, would be unable successfully to fill the job of assistant greaser. This is a pretty
Very
savage attack at democracy. And you know, like I'm not a what is it, a technocrat. I don't because again I think we're kind of like run with this question of who do we decide are the most effective people to run our country. But at the same time, this strikes me as a pretty clear, pretty concise attack on democracy.
Yeah. Which is strange because, and we will pick up this in a little bit as well, but Rand is not advocating for necessarily a non-democratic society, right? I mean,
yeah.
She is kind of, it's this like limited government according to like an not super well defined like minarchist system that probably would have a democratic structure at its back, ?
Yeah.
So yeah, but good to note here that we have this in here.
Yeah, for sure. I, who do not accept the unearned, neither in values nor in guilt, am here to ask the questions you evaded. Why is it moral to serve the happiness of others but not your own? If enjoyment is a value, why is it moral when experienced by others but immoral when experienced by you? If the sensation of eating a cake is a value, why is it an immoral indulgence in your stomach, but a moral goal for you to achieve in the stomach of others? Why is it immoral for you to desire, but moral for others to do so? Why is it immoral to produce a value and keep it, but moral for others to give it away? And if it is not moral for you to keep a value, why is it moral for others to accept it? If you are selfless and virtuous when you give it, are they not selfless and vicious when they take it? Does virtue consist of serving vice? Is the moral purpose of those who are good self-immolation for the sake of those who are evil? So this reminds me immediately of one of the previous quotes about sacrifice. And this like example of like giving someone money and them not feeling gracious or gratitude for it. There is this weird kind of like, and maybe it is a religious idea. Maybe it is purely religious and it's like just become part of our society today. But the idea that like, yeah, you're homeless, therefore you can accept, and it's fine for you to accept, and there's no like moral, there's no like moral questioning about that. There's nothing to say about it. You're like automatically in this position of need. And obviously, you know, homeless people can benefit from things, but like there's like this dual moral kind of standard for haves and have-nots. And in a real true moral system you would treat everyone the same. It's like my favorite moral system, which I see I see so much on like people on the left, is my morals are, it's okay if I like you. Like it's okay if you're my friend. Like you'll accept, like you see some people like, you know, they'll like lambast some person who said one thing about, like it could be pretty bad or it could be fairly innocuous, and it's like your mum holds those same beliefs, so like, you know, like people that you know, people that you love hold those same beliefs. Right. So why is there this like dual like standard? And I think in the same way this is kind of pointing to that. This is the same kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and it's also pointing to this kind of you know, what we've all been kind of taught as children in kindergarten also, you know, that sharing is good, not trading, but sharing, right? So if you have, I don't know, if you get some sweets or some nice toy, that for you to play with it or for you to enjoy it on your own is less preferable than you giving it to someone else. But at the end of the day, they're just gonna do it. They're just gonna enjoy it for their own sake, right? They're just gonna eat the candy, or they're just gonna play with the thing. So why is it good for the same exact thing? Like, why is it better for someone else to do it than yourself? And of course, if you look from their perspective, they would apply the same morality, right? All of a sudden, like say person A has candy and gives it to person B. In this scenario, person B eating the candy is better than person A eating the candy, morally, right? We would say that you've done a good thing, you've shared. This is better than just person A eating it.
Yeah.
But let's say now if you're person B having the candy and you give it to person A, all of a sudden person A eating the candy is better.
Exactly.
Person B, like objectively, reality in this A sense, this is completely nonsensical.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing happening.
Exactly. If you had a chain of people, like a circle of people all linked in a chain, and they all had a piece of candy in their hands, if every single person in that chain ate the candy, it would be exactly the same as if they handed the candy to the person to the left and all had the same amount of candy again and then ate that candy.
Yeah, perfect.
Just without the step.
Perfect analogy. Yes, yes, very good.
Yeah, so the question is why, like, what is it about a sharing society that's like more moral?
Yeah, and she brings us to a point in this last sentence by saying, does virtue consist of serving vice? So why does this make sense? Why is she speaking of vice? Well, the person B eating the candy, they're selfishly eating the candy, right? So they're that is kind of, you can say, is less good. So it's vice.
Yeah.
So what is virtue then? Well, virtue is person A giving the candy to person B. Yeah. So all this moral system is saying is that the point of virtue is to serve the vice of others.
Yeah. And the moral thing for B to do would be to pass it to C. And C onwards. So everyone's just getting rid of the thing.
And until you have nothing.
until there's one person on the end of the chain. Or like it is like that classic thing where it's like, oh no, you. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah,
you.
Yeah.
It's like no one ends up eating the last piece of cake.
Yeah, at the company party. Yeah.
Yes, the company party. It's very, very relevant to both of us. Our life experiences.
I don't know. It's just like, I hope if I one day have children, this is not gonna come back on me in a bad way. But like, it would be so funny if you had like a little Ayn Rand jacked up toddler. And
the Ayn Rand birthday party.
Like, your kid is in kindergarten. Somewhere it's more funny if you imagine it in Japan. It's like Japanese kindergarten, and they're all like polite and shit. But it's like, oh no, little Timmy, you should give that cake to Francesca and share it with her. You can't. It's not good to just eat it all on your own. It's like, and the toddler is like, if the sensation of eating a cake is a value, why is it an immoral indulgence in your stomach, but a moral goal for you to achieve in the stomach of others? Teacher's just like,
I like the idea of Timmy having a birthday party with an Ayn Rand birthday cake, and he's the only one that can eat it, and everyone's sat around the table. Okay.
All right.
So, causeless wealth. One of my favorite quotes is related to causeless wealth. This is not it. As there can be no causeless wealth, so there can be no causeless love or any sort of causeless emotion. An emotion is a response to a fact of reality, an estimate dictated by your standards. To love is to value. The man who tells you that it is possible to value without values, to love those whom you appraise as worthless, is the man who tells you that it is possible to grow rich by consuming without producing, and that paper money is as valuable as gold.
Yeah, so we're finally connecting this bridge also between all the love and the relationships in this book and this economic theme of producing. So, we've talked about this relationship between Jim and Cheryl, about causeless love, and why is someone being worth what is the sentence I'm making here? Why why someone would be loved, for certain attributes, of course, right? Like the way they act, the way they think, the way they look, they speak, the way they carry themselves. All of these are attributes, physical and non-physical, that make them worthy of love. And this kind of, you should just feel it. You should just love the person for who they are, accept any attribute that you could think of what makes them who they are. Not that, but this intangible, like, mystic core of essence, that doesn't really exist. That's why you should love them. Saying that is kind of on par with this, like, ignoring of causes in economics. So here she says, this is also the man who tells you that it is possible to grow rich by consuming without producing.
Yeah.
Is that a clear analogy? Like, does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. In my mind, it's like, not just this kind of like vague nothingness that you should love, but also loving qualities that you don't like about someone. Like when someone says love me for who I am, it's normally like with their faults and all, but like,
it's not the faults that you love, right?
Yeah, no,
of
course.
It's like you love them despite their faults.
Yeah. But you would hope that if someone had faults that went against your own standards and morals to such an extent, you would terminate that relationship, right?
Yeah, there's like a tipping point, sure.
Yeah. But if you can do that, then if you continue a relationship like that, then you're loving without value. That makes sense.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and
it is kind of like this fake thing. Like when you see the real thing, you know it's real. Kind of thing that we were talking about last episode. Like when you see greatness and you see someone who's super, like, so talented and productive and capable, like it's really like a overwhelming experience. In the same way that if you saw paper money, and paper money your whole life was like, this is real value, and then someone like shows you gold, you're like, fuck, this gold shit is sick. Like gold is cool, like it looks great, there's something about it which has this quality, like this is real value, like and I think there's something there, maybe. But it's real value, like it is valuable because the qualities that it has are rare.
Yeah.
Right. Paper money doesn't have those same rare qualities.
Yeah, it's just a stand-in for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes gold cool when you look at it is the fact that it has these rare qualities that you don't see in anything else.
It's the thing itself. It's not a stand-in for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. On mystics.
So, they claim that they perceive a mode of being superior to existence on this earth. The mystics of spirit call it another dimension, which consists of denying dimensions. The mystics of muscle call it the future, which consists of denying the present. To exist is to possess identity. What identity are they able to give to their superior realm? They keep telling you what it is not, but never tell you what it is. All their identifications consist of negating. God is that which no human mind can know, they say, and proceed to demand that you consider it knowledge. God is non-man, heaven is non-earth, soul is non-body, virtue is non-profit. A is non-A, perception is non-sensory, knowledge is non-reason. Their definitions are not acts of defining, but of wiping out.
I mean, this is very Nietzschean, right? This is very similar to what we mentioned earlier as well with what Nietzsche called the preachers of death. This idealization of intangible things beyond this realm, and that yeah, the even the way that they define things, as Rand says here, is just simply by negating a value that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other identification. God is that which no human mind can know. And this is, this is the kind of definition that Rene Descartes also works with in his, what is it? What is the English? Hoho Josetsu in Japanese. Fuck. What is the Rene Descartes, the famous book? Discussion on the Method. That's it. That's the famous, like, I think therefore I am kind of treatise on how to think by Rene Descartes. And the definition of God he gives there, and also which I think most Christians generally agree with, is that God is infinity. God is like all powerful. God is, I think my Christian friend told me that, like, infinity is pretty much the closest you get in a single word. It's like simply the unconceivable, the ungraspable. It's whatever, like, no matter how hard you try to imagine and approach it, it's whatever is not that. Which just kind of feels like a cop-out answer. But also, it's kind of big middle finger to the life on earth, right? It's like, well, if there's, it's basically, you should serve this thing that nothing can be done about, and that you can't possibly, like, you don't even know what it is, so you don't know how to serve it, except these very specific rules that we happen to write down.
Exactly.
Well,
it's also they demand that you consider it knowledge. Like, knowledge is like this, like, true knowledge is this stationary, unmoving truth, right? Fact about something. If you say, like, the reason the crops didn't grow this year is because of God, that's like, okay, there's nothing we can do to change that. This line of questioning is over because of God. When of course we know that's not the case.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Heaven is non-earth, soul is non-body. Virtue is non-profit. Yeah. We mentioned this a little bit with the science thing, where we spoke about, like, a true destructive thing like the atomic bomb that really leaves no value and just simply reduces things to ash, couldn't be built by a profitable enterprise because there's no profit to be made. And this, I mean, really, we in the modern world, kind of a non-profit sounds like it intuitively sounds like a good thing, right? Oh, that's really great, they're working for non-profit. But another way to say it, like, what does that word really mean, non-profit? It means they're working for nothing good. It means they're working toward ash. It means, it's like there's nothing to be had from this.
You think about it in terms of, like, let's think about it in terms of, like, a charity that feeds the homeless, for example, or feeds, like, some starving community. They have a non-profit. They gather money through whatever means. They buy a bunch of food, take it out to, like, a car park, and they hand it out to people. They don't get any money from it. The money goes that way. Tell me what is wrong about this. I feel like this is, like, a question that most people are gonna have.
Fair. Okay,
like,
very good question. Right? As Ayn Rand said in the earlier quote about sacrifice, if the people donating to that non-profit view their donation as a, actually, let me go back to the specific words, because it makes a lot of sense in this question. But if you give a friend a sum you can afford, it is not a sacrifice. If you give him money at the cost of your own discomfort, it is only partial virtue. If you give him money at the cost of disaster to yourself, that is the virtue of sacrifice in full. So if all the people are donating to this charity because they believe in this cause and it makes them happy and it gives them a sense of fulfillment, not in the sense of, like, oh, I'm better than these people, but, just I believe, and she also mentions injustice later in a different quote, I think. Like if there is an injustice, like say a flooding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all these people are now homeless because of a flood. You kind of feel for that, right? That could have been your house, that could have been your neighbor's house.
Yeah.
Like, this is just not fair. There's
something to be said about creating a spirit of giving in a community that could come back to you in times that you would need it.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be that kind of self-motivated, like, I'm hoping this will, like, you know, if I wash their hand, they will wash my hand. But if you're simply donating to this nonprofit for your own, for your own enjoyment of your actualization of your values, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're enjoying the fact that you can self-actualize your own belief and values. And that's worth $5 to you. Mm-hmm. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But I guess if the nonprofit, as they often are in the real world, if they actually have a lot of like government connections as well, and they're not directly subsidized, but it's actually this company that the government propped up that makes something that sells them very cheap to this nonprofit, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. Now we're funneling, money through this discomfort to yourself, right? Like, now it's not a voluntary thing anymore, and
you're taking money through taxation, without people even really knowing what it's doing. And
I guess also there was, I forgot if we already read this quote or not, but there was something about like, if let's say the nonprofit hands this money out to people like Jim Taggart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say post-employment Jim Taggart, he's homeless now. And like he like doesn't believe that he should ever work for his own, and he's perfectly capable of, of course he could stack shelves in an Amazon warehouse. Like,
true,
anyone could, but he just thinks he's better than that, and that he's, after having enjoyed such a important position in society, that how could he possibly stack boxes in a warehouse? He should be cared for. In that case, I guess also Rand would say that those donations wouldn't be serving a good thing.
Right.
Even though the act of donating might not be negative if you truly believe in it, but it's not good to funnel resources to Jim in that that scenario.
Fuck Jim. Okay, next quote. Observe the persistence in mankind's mythologies of the legend about a paradise that men had once possessed, the city of Atlantis, or the Garden of Eden, or some kingdom of perfection always behind us. The root of that legend exists, not in the past of the race, but in the past of every man. You still retain a sense, not as firm as a memory, but diffused like the pain of hopeless longing, that somewhere in the starting years of your childhood, before you had learned to submit, to absorb the terror of unreason, and to doubt the value of your mind, you had known a radiant state of existence. You had known the independence of a rational consciousness facing an open universe. That is the paradise which you have lost, which you seek, which is yours for the taking. My kind of original reading of this was kind of like, there is a kind of, I feel like this can be misread maybe, or like misinterpreted, going back to this kind of idea I was talking about earlier about this innate understanding of the world, which I think misunderstood with the objectivism. With like, you see this in conservatism a lot. This like nostalgia factor, I think, is like a big pull for a lot of I see, like, what is his name, Tim the beanie guy,
Tim Pool,
like, he, like, on Twitter he posts stuff about like, remember what they took from you, like, and it's like a kid playing on like his Atari in the 1990s or something. Maybe not remember what they took from you, but it's that kind of like nostalgia. Like, we want to bring, like, and you have uh Daily Wire, like, we're bringing back Sunday cartoons and none of it's gonna be woke, just like how it was before. And so I think in a way, like, people, you know, it's not what's being talked about here, but there is kind of like I am kind of like wondering whether, like, what this kind of appeal is, and like whether there is this kind of like real, like, you know, do you remember this time of your childhood? Is it like is it even useful to kind of think about it in those terms?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big theme in Atlas that wasn't in the Fountainhead. This kind of innate sense from childhood that I guess reason is good, and that the way that society has become in Atlas Shrugged toward the end of the book is wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And so another example of that is Dagny's kind of attraction to John Galt that has been hinted at. I think, like, honestly, I think it's been, I know you mentioned last time you don't remember this, but I think from even like from part 1 of the book, there has been, like, when she talks about Nat Taggart and her ancestors, it talks about, like, or no, this is when she talks about her first romance with Francisco when she was young.
Yeah.
And in that, even in that, it's mentioned, like, but she feels that somewhere out there's like a some like, yeah, rational magical thing, like
even more rational, man.
That's not how it was worded in a more better way, but anyway.
By the way, small tangent, I think I probably said it in part 1, I love that Francisco de Anconia was like, I'm so sorry, babe, I had to be a playboy for like 20 years. It was just something I had to do. I had to fuck all these models. I just had to create this image that I was an asshole, like, playboy. Please understand. And she was like, okay. Anyway, carry on.
How do we come back from that?
It's like the movie we watched last night, Teen Lust.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to fuck you or I'm gonna die. Which was actually true, but never mind. Anyway, carry on. So please carry on with the thought that you had earlier.
Oh God. I need to fuck you or I'm gonna die. How do I come back from that too?
You were talking about Dagny's.
Right, okay. And I have a note written in this script that we have here somewhere later. I'll just mention this point now and we can skip it later. So this Ayn Rand often in this book mentions this kind of innate sense of understanding from childhood that has been obscured by the anti-reason of society, or this specific society.
Yep.
And oh God, I'm gonna sneeze. Well, I'm never gonna make this point.
I'm recording for 3 hours now.
No, I think a very simple, intuitive way to look at this is kind of like I mentioned before with the selfishness and sharing thing. Like, when you're a child, you clearly, and let's literally take the sharing example, right? Mm-hmm. You feel that you having this candy and eating it for yourself, that's all you want, right? You love this candy, you're purely enjoying being in that moment, as Rand established before. Like, rationality should serve your enjoyment of life. So, but now you're being told, no, eating this candy by yourself is wrong. You should share it with someone else, and that really sharing is joy, and sharing is the real joy. And
right,
it's actually much better if you're a good person. That you'll actually feel much more happy than if you ate it by yourself. And then you know, if you share it with a friend you really like and you can see them happy, then maybe that's true. Maybe, and you know, probably maybe you will feel happier. But if you just give it to some fucking fat kid next to you who you really don't give a shit about, now you feel this disconnection of like, am I an asshole for not being happy about this? Like, I would have definitely preferred eating this candy by myself. Like, am I wrong for thinking this way? Like,
yeah,
there is that. I think that is this innate kind of understanding of rationality and self.
Right. Yeah.
And that that you never kind of really get over, even when you become an adult. Like, you know, you've been trained to this role of being sharing and caring and non-selfish, but you never actually, from the bottom of your heart, are able to really believe that, because it's just not A is A, it's A is B.
Yeah. There's no kind of way of squaring that circle. We got to know the truth. Next quote. This connects to points that we made in the previous episode, part 2 of Atlas Shrugged. The men of the mind. And it goes as such. The machine, the frozen form of a living intelligence, is the power that expands the potential of your life by raising the productivity of your time. If you worked as a blacksmith in the mystics' Middle Ages, the whole of your earning capacity would consist of an iron bar produced by your hands in days and days of effort. How many tons of rail do you produce per day if you work for Hank Rearden? Would you dare to claim that the size of your paycheck was created solely by your physical labor, and that those rails were a product of your muscles? The standard of living of that blacksmith is all that your muscles are worth. The rest is a gift from Hank Rearden. This is pretty fucking intense. Like, you know, no fucking around. Like, if you really think the CEO, or like the guy that created this company is the leech on the people that work it, then this quote should sort you out.
This is the Ben Shapiro pencil factory clip, right?
I've never seen that.
It's like some college kid brings the classic Marx. I think it's literally from Marx's Capital.
Okay.
Is the Marx goes through? Oh, it's because it even goes back to Adam Smith, because Adam Smith goes into the pencil factory in illustrating division of labor.
Yeah.
Like he's
is it the nail factory?
Or the nail, I think it might be nail factory. And you might be right.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
It's like these amazing little tiny steps that every person does a little step, and then you get a nail or a pencil or whatever. And and I think Marx picks this up and then says, but it's really the worker that is making the pencil or the nail, and it's the, you know, that there is no labor on part of the CEO or the manager on making this specific pencil. And there's some viral clip of like a college student basically giving that to Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro goes like, something like, if you really think that this pencil is made possible by you, or like sticking a piece of wood into a piece of graphite, then you're an idiot. And I guess that, like, the better comeback.
Boom! Wow, that was so worth the whole 5 minutes.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! No, but the point is that the labor performed wouldn't actually result in a pencil. Because 200 years ago, without your boss and without that specific company and the factory and everything,
that division of labor,
you could still be there with your labor power, and you maybe even have the raw materials at your disposal, although in the modern example those would all be provided by the logistics department. You're not going to be able to make that pencil. You're not going to be able to, and especially not at the same rate and quality, etc.
Exactly.
And so everything else is a gift from Hank Rearden or from the company, right? From everyone else working toward that goal. The question is, like, considering that you're both two humans made of flesh and blood, like, what? Obviously, people have material differences and have access to different resources and stuff. That's undeniable, but when you look at like the macro scale of human history, and even today, where I think things have become much more egalitarian, it's even easier. It's more easier than ever, I think, to actually create money for yourself. The question is like, why can't you do it?
anyone can like start their small business on fucking the internet, make candles, and like, but you wonder why people buy certain candles over others,
Speaking of, please check out the link in the description below for a candle shop and our free course on how to make money on the internet.
Life coach. Anyway, there is one last quote connected to this, which I think adds a bit more texture. The man at the top of the intellectual pyramid contributes the most to all those below him, but gets nothing except his material payment, receiving no intellectual bonus from others to add to the value of his time. The man at the bottom who, left to himself, would starve in his hopeless ineptitude, contributes nothing to those above him, but receives the bonus of all their brains. Such is the nature of the competition between the strong and the weak of the intellect. Such is the pattern of exploitation for which you have damned the strong. So, this is like the Marx full 180 reversal. Like, you activated my trap card shit. Do you think the man at the bottom contributes nothing to those above him?
Wait, let's read this one. The man at the bottom who left to himself would starve in the homeless ineptitude. Contributes nothing to those above him.
Okay. What I think the Marxist line would be that is the capitalist extracts the labor value from the worker, right?
Yeah.
So the worker is contributing profits to the owner.
Yeah. Okay. So this goes back to the Ben Shapiro, because I remember now what he actually said more clearly is that the person putting a piece of graphite into a piece of wood is perfectly replaceable. And that like
right.
It's not that role that labor isn't necessary, but that specific individual is completely unnecessary in the
qualities of that individual.
Yeah,
don't matter.
like it doesn't matter at all that it's you. It could be any of the like billions of people on this planet, and it's your contribution is the contribution itself is valuable. But it's not you that is necessary to do this for computer. Yeah.
Whereas you have like let's say like a movie director is I think a very tangible example for most people. It's undeniable on like a film set, there are all sorts of people that contribute in all sorts of ways to the way that a movie turns out, but the director is like the ultimate authority in theory, at least, who makes all these big creative decisions, including making decisions about who makes decisions. And you might have a cameraman that's like has a specific style which ends up having an effect on the movie, but that was all the decision by the director. And then when you get to the even lower stages, like the really, really low stages of a film set, those people will contribute almost nothing distinct to the way that the film turns out. They won't. It could be that person, it could be someone else, but even though they're doing an incredibly important job, their uniqueness is not essential to the thing that has value in the end, the thing that's created that has value. And in the same way, it's like, if you're like, Elon Musk doesn't do anything for his company, I'm sure if Elon Musk left Tesla would not be the same. In the same way that Steve Jobs leaving Apple or dying has clearly changed the way that Apple has moved in the future.
Yeah, and isn't it? I guess we could say that it's a bit different also if it's like a perfectly labor liquid market, like say an Amazon warehouse, where there's truly like always the next person available for the job. Like that is a little bit different than say you start a little indie project and you just need a guy to like carry some boxes from the truck to wherever your project is.
Right.
Could be a film or an art thing or whatever. Of course, anyone could do that box carrying, but I guess in that scenario, it's you need someone to actually be there and show up in your circle of people you know, and that would do the job for probably a very little pay. And it's not necessarily the case in that example that even if that person wasn't there, the project would be fine, right? Because maybe that might be the only person who is actually there available to do it and would be willing to do it. So yeah, I think that's interesting to think about how labor liquidity is kind of a factor in this also.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next quote. The law of identity does not permit you to have your cake and eat it too, but the law of causality does not permit you to eat your cake before you have it. Wait. The law of identity does not permit you to have your cake and eat it too. The law of causality does not permit you to eat your cake before you have it. But if you drown both laws in the blanks of your mind, if you pretend to yourself and to others that you do not see, then you can try to proclaim your right to eat your cake today and mine tomorrow. You can preach that the way to have a cake is to eat it first before you bake it, that the way to produce is to start by consuming, that all wishes have an equal claim to all things, since nothing is caused by anything. The corollary of the causeless in matter is the unearned in spirit. Whenever you rebel against causality, your motive is the fraudulent desire, not to escape it, but worse, to reverse it. You want unearned love, as if love, the effect, could give you personal value. The cause. You want unearned admiration, as if admiration, the effect, could give you virtue. The cause. You want unearned wealth, as if wealth, the effect, could give you the ability. The cause. You plead for mercy, not justice, as if an unearned forgiveness could wipe out the cause of your plea. And to indulge your ugly little shams, you support the doctrines of your teachers, while they run hog wild proclaiming that spending, the effect, creates riches, that cause, that machinery, the effect, creates intelligence, the cause, that your sexual desires, the effect, create your philosophical values, the cause.
Yeah, I mean, baked into this is first of all a real...
Baked into it?
Haha, cake. Baked into this is a very direct jab at Keynesian economics, or Keynesian economics, or however you want to say that fucking guy's name. Which by the time Rand wrote this, I think was already like the predominantly like established, quote unquote, correct way to view economics that is now taught in all universities. And yeah, a central tenet of the Keynesian theory is that spending creates wealth, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this consumption creates production. You eat the cake first and then you make it, and it's so retarded.
In what is the difference between applying this macro scale to a whole economy or applying it in your own personal finances? Like, when would any normal person in their life like really actually believe and not be smacked in the face immediately by reality that by spending the money that they have would create more value, like, immediately?
I guess like the closest you can get to that is like when you have a deadline and you tell yourself that by wasting as much time and not doing the project, so that's like to leave yourself as little time as possible for handing the thing in, that makes you, when it actually comes to the time to do it, you're more motivated to do it, and maybe you're able to do it more effectively. That's the only thing.
Right.
But yeah, you got to do some mental gymnastics there, of course, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's just so dumb, but this is what we all, this is how all of our economic systems are run these days. This is how central banks act. It's this whole bullshit of, oh yeah, we just spend all the money first, overspend massively, and then we print the money later. Yeah. And yeah, just let's not talk about inflation because that's not very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, this whole anti-cyclical spending also, like, oh, we're in a depression now, so we got to spend our way out of the depression.
Yeah.
And then we just do
to get the economy moving.
Yeah, and where does the necessary saving come from? Oh, well, just the saving follows spending. That's the kind of central Keynesian thing.
Yeah.
And it's just so dumb if you put it in any like tangible terms, as you said, your personal life or with the cake here. Like, yeah, you can't eat the cake first and bake it after that. It has to be the other way around.
Yeah.
So they're literally trying to reverse the law of causality itself.
Yeah. It is like the kind of like you do get this you get this kind of like dress for the job you want, or like you got to spend money to make money, like putting the cart before the horse kind of ways of thinking. I think maybe, you know, when it's like an individual, it's normally like it's normally thought as a means, spending the money as a means of either giving yourself investing in some way in yourself, in your appearance, or in, you know, maybe investing in a course, for example, is a way of spending money to make money, because you're learning to do something, and sometimes you have to spend money in order to get that information or that access. But here we're not talking about that. We're kind of talking about just this very irrational, like, A is not A. This could not possibly be true, that like if you spend more money, then you create more value, or you create more riches.
Yeah, and the next example she gives is also connecting to that. The machinery creates intelligence, right? And this is
yeah.
I mean, with AI and all this shit now, it's like, oh, we're the smartest that we've ever been in society because we have all these gadgets and phones and AI. And it's like, well, you know, this smart people made those, but it's not these things that make us smart. It's not necessarily that they make us dumb either, which is also like a very often repeated thing, like, oh, we're so dumb because of the phones.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the machinery that makes us smarter than the people in the past, right? It's,
yeah.
It's the past intelligence that made that machinery.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next very short quote. Phil, you can read this one.
Yeah, she gives this is not even a sentence. She gives a definition of thinking. What is thinking? So let me just read this. Thinking, which is the process of defining identity and discovering causal connections. Would you agree with this definition of thinking, Nick? Thinking is the process of defining identity and discovering causal connections.
I think so.
Because the whole book, you think so? Do you mean you define identity and discover causal connections? So,
well,
because no, the whole book talks about the men of the mind and the thinkers versus the non-thinkers, and now at the end of the book we're actually only starting to think about what it means to think. So what is thinking? Because she defines like 30 things in this speech, like what is joy, what is justice, what is pride. I thought this was a interesting definition of thinking. Identifying, okay,
I mean, we often think of there's that using words to define things is like a part of cognition that separates us from animals, and it's definitely like a means for us to like generate information, and it also changes the way that we look at the world. We start labeling them with words. So I do think thinking is defining things. And to define something, you have to understand its qualities. You have to understand why it's different to something else in order to say this is this, right?
Okay, so let's make a specific example then. Nick, think about what will happen if you knock over the glass of water behind you.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Think about what's going to happen.
It's going to spill.
It's going to spill.
The water's going to go onto the table.
Why is that?
How do you mean?
Why is it going to spill?
It's going to spill because my arm, if I knock it with my arm, it will cause the balanced object to lose balance, and gravity will cause it to fall to the ground. The contents, being liquid, will be released from the container and continue falling according to gravity.
Okay, so what did you do there? Did you define identity and discover causal connections? I think so. You defined certain different identities of like your arm being like a hard thing that would knock it over.
Different states of matter.
Yeah, there's a causal connection there, like the
knocking, falling.
The force is stronger that you hitting it would fall over and knock over the balance. It's a liquid. What is the property of or the identity of the liquid? It would flow out
of a container.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Oh yeah.
Little excursion here on thinking.
No, it's good question. I mean, it's a big thing to say thinking is this.
Yeah. If you put a gun to my head and we're like, define thinking, I'll be like,
the process of defining identity and discovering causal connections.
Yes, sir.
I have to pull up the Thomas Sowell definition of economics when someone asks me what economics is. Which I've forgotten. Economics is the distribution of scarce resources. Something.
Okay, next quote.
We know that we know nothing, they chatter, blanking out the fact that they are claiming knowledge. There are no absolutes, they chatter, blanking out the fact that they are uttering an absolute. You cannot prove that you exist or that you're conscious, they chatter, blanking out the fact that proof presupposes existence, consciousness, and a complex chain of knowledge. The existence of something to know, of a consciousness able to know it, and of a knowledge that has learned to distinguish between such concepts as the proved and the unproved.
Yeah, now we're getting into this Greek shit and all this like...
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, also, as we mentioned earlier, a bit like René Descartes, kind of the discussion on the method kind of thing. And we are introduced to this idea of blanking out, which Ayn Rand uses a lot in this book, especially toward the end. Blank out. So, what is the blank out, Nick?
To blank out, as I understand, is to kind of freeze up and offer no kind of thought or no response or no kind of acknowledgement of something which is a clear contradiction in front of you. So to say that you know nothing is to you're blanking out because you are claiming knowledge that you know nothing, which is a contradiction.
Yeah.
So the only way that you can claim that and really truly believe it is by blanking out.
Yeah, I think yesterday we talked about this and we were like, where's the exact moment of blanking out? Like if you and we talked about this in the economic sense of this income tax kind of thing, like if you're claiming that the rich should pay a large share of their proceeds, and the more you earn, the more you should pay, and the less you have, the less you should pay, and that we should all redistribute this. And the blank out there, of course, is, well, what is the machinery that makes the rich in the first place? Why do the more productive produce more? And it's because they're able to enjoy that for themselves, right?
Right.
And so therefore to reverse this engine, to throw a screwdriver into the cogs of this machine is kind of this kind of blanking out, right? Like,
yeah,
economic surplus, economic value is it just comes from nothing.
We're
blanking out about the origins of it, and we're just gonna redistribute it.
Yeah. So we have more blank out quotes. The problem of production, they tell you, has been solved and deserves no study or concern. The only problem left for your reflexes to solve is now the problem of distribution. Who solved the problem of production? Humanity, the answer. What was the solution? The goods are here. How did they get here? Somehow. What caused it? Nothing has causes. They proclaim that every man born is entitled to exist without labour, and the laws of reality to the contrary notwithstanding, is entitled to receive his minimum sustenance, his food, his clothes, his shelter, with no effort on his part, as his due and his birthright. To receive it? From whom? Blank out. Every man, they announce, owns an equal share of the technological benefits created in the world. Created by whom? Blank out.
Yeah, I mean, we heard this. This is completely in the modern world, like a everyday kind of topic, right? Like, whether it's UBI or just this like human rights stuff, or everyone should be able, and even like big like considered based kind of people like Joe Rogan will always say stuff like it's crazy that we don't have a system where all your immediate needs are taken care of, and it's like, okay, who specifically is responsible for that? Like who has the obligation to provide that for someone else? Blank out. Like,
exactly. And it's like, what is a right when it's taking the right away from someone else? Okay, mystics and death. There is only one state that fulfills the mystic's longing for infinity, non-causality, non-identity, death. No matter what unintelligible causes he ascribes to his uncommunicable feelings, whoever rejects reality rejects existence. And the feelings that move him from then on are hatred for all the values of man's life and lust for all the evils that destroy it. A mystic relishes the spectacle of suffering, of poverty, subservience and terror. These give him a feeling of triumph, a proof of the defeat of rational reality. But no other reality exists. No matter whose welfare he professes to serve, be it the welfare of God or of that disembodied gargoyle he describes as the people, no matter what ideal he proclaims in terms of some supernatural dimension. In fact, in reality, on earth, his ideal is death. His craving is to kill. His only satisfaction is to torture.
Boom. Yeah, this is kind of this realization that acting irrational, that I guess paying the taxman willingly, giving the government or the king or the highwayman the means to destroy yourself, like willingly to hand that over, to comply, is to participate in this striving towards death, actually. And that because at the end of the day, this, again, just going to the pure economics of it, and there are meaningful other examples you can talk about this in, but let's stay with this one. If we all just, if no one produces it for their own sake, and we all just hand it over to the people, then we'll be left with nothing. And we've run that experiment, of course, in communist states. But so I don't know. What am I saying? This convinced me to commit tax fraud. I'm joking.
Allegedly.
Joking. Obviously joking.
Allegedly. Okay. So you have some notes you want to talk about here, I think.
This childhood thing I mentioned earlier, so we can skip that.
Okay.
But she also has a little text here about compromise and how compromise is evil. What does that mean? So she says, like, there are in the rational world, there can be on a given question, there can either be a right or a wrong approach. So you're either right or wrong on something. Like I don't know, is this duck
a cow?
A cow. If you're right, then that's good. And now you've correctly identified the duck as a duck, and you're not going to try and build a barn and milk it. So you're not going to waste any time on it. If you think it's a cow, you might. Nick's like, I could manhandled a fair number of ducks, and it wasn't a waste of my time.
The problem is the screwdriver. It's the screw.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they have the dicks. Anyway.
Screw. Yeah.
Let's say you're on the wrong side of the issue. You think the duck is a cow, and you might build a barn and bring the duck into your barn, and then you realize that you won't get any milk out of it. At least you've wasted your own time, but there's nothing really. Like you were wrong in a innocent sense, and now that you're wrong, you can acknowledge that you were wrong, and
yeah.
But to compromise and just say like, oh no, everyone is
to disagree.
Everyone is kind of right. Let's not make enemies here. Like,
this is your truth.
This duck can be a cow, and it can also be a duck. It's like now we're just trying to deny reality, and there's nothing good in that. Like this, it's so she says like the guy who's wrong, at least he is like, he will learn or whatever, but the guy who's trying to compromise is truly disingenuously making damage. I guess with the duck cow example, we're not really illustrating why that's super harmful to the society. I guess it's like with all this talk about extremism, right? It's like, oh well, I'm not an extremist, I'm a moderate. It's like,
right, I'm a centrist.
How is that different from saying like, I don't commit to any particular belief or values per se. I want to avoid conflict, so I'll just average out whatever everyone else is saying, and like but somehow the people who actually have values and beliefs are the bad radicals. Right.
Yeah, I can still believe the same thing as you.
Yeah,
but because I actually don't believe, because I'm in a position where I'm believe that it's true, but I could also believe that it's not true, that I'm actually in a morally higher position.
Yeah, and whether I believe that doesn't actually depend on the specific issue, but how many people are on each side. And where the average will move, where the center is right now. It's not dependent on reality, but
it's not, and it's not intention. It's not contingent on making a risk, taking a risk in saying I believe this is right or this is wrong. Okay, next quote about self-esteem. We've talked about self-esteem a little bit so far, rather Rand has. As a basic step of self-esteem, learn to treat as the mark of a cannibal any man's demand for your help. To demand it is to claim that your life is his property, and loathsome as such claim might be, there's something still more loathsome, your agreement. Do you ask if it's ever proper to help another man? No. If he claims it as his right or as his moral duty that you owe him. Yes, if such is your own desire based on your own selfish pleasure in the value of his person and his struggle. Suffering as such is not a value. Only man's fight against suffering is. If you choose to help a man who suffers, do it only on the ground of his virtues, of his fight to recover, of his rational record, or of the fact that he suffers unjustly. Then your action is still a trade, and his virtue is the payment for your help. But to help a man who has no virtues, to help him on the ground of his suffering as such, to accept his faults, his need as a claim, is to accept the mortgage of a zero on your values. Great.
Yeah, speaks pretty much for itself, but I guess this is like the best articulation you could say about like Nietzsche's whole thing on pity. Right?
Yeah.
We've always been talking through Zarathustra about this, like Nietzsche's denial of pity, or what was the other word we had, the English, because the German was like Mitleid, and then we had different English translations. It was either pity or it was like empathy or something like that. Like basically,
I think it was pity. But
I think it was mostly pity, but like helping. I guess she's like saying in which in which scenario is it actually virtuous to help someone or to pity someone?
Yeah.
Like not pity, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So that just kind of sums it up real nicely.
Yeah, and also this draws back to early in the book when Dagny is consoling Cheryl, and there's a quote which I don't have immediately with me, but basically goes something to the tune of Cheryl saying to Dagny, you promise to only encourage the good things in me and to kind of ignore the bad, or to reject the bad, at which Dagny's like, yes, of course. And when you think about someone who's a true friend, it's someone who fights for that self-esteem within you rather than pushing you on a wrong path. And for you, that's a benefit, and for them, that's a benefit too, because now they have a friend who's more capable.
Yeah, in a very tangible way. Yeah, I like this. His virtue is the payment for your help.
Exactly, yeah. Like creating a more virtuous world, there's nothing better than that, right?
Donate to our Patreon.
Yeah, a more virtuous world today. The source of man's rights is not divine law or congressional law, but the law of identity. A is A and man is man. You sure about that? Rights are conditions of existence required by man's nature for his proper survival. If man is to live on earth, it is right for him to use his mind. It is right to act on his own free judgment. It is right to work for his values and to keep the product of his work. If life on earth is his purpose, he has a right to live as a rational being. Nature forbids him the irrational. Any group, any gang, any nation that attempts to negate man's rights is wrong, which means is evil, which means is anti-life. Yeah, this is the... This connects up to a lot of what we've
talked about this kind of before. I guess what's interesting about this is that later we will find in a quote, I think 2-3 quotes down from now, Rand talks about the proper role of government. And what's interesting here is that she says, any group, any gang, any nation that attempts to negate man's rights is wrong, which means it's evil. So,
yeah.
And what does that mean, to negate man's rights? Well, it's his right of property.
Yes, exactly.
His, this rational self-interest, A is A, that you work for yourself and not for others. And that if government will reverse that by, taxing you or redistributing or whatever, then that is anti-life. But I don't think that actually really matches up with the proper role of government she defines. So we'll come back to that when the quote comes up.
Yeah. Just as man can't exist without his body, so no rights can exist without the right to translate one's rights into reality, to think, to work, and to keep the results, which means the right of property. The modern mystics of muscle who offer you the fraudulent alternative of, quote, human rights versus, quote, property rights, as if one could exist without the other, are making a last grotesque attempt to revive the doctrine of soul versus body. Only a ghost can exist without material property. Only a slave can work with no right to the property of his effort. The doctrine that human rights are superior to property rights simply means that some human beings have the right to make property out of others. Since the competent have nothing to gain from the incompetent, it means the right of the incompetent to own their betters and to use them as productive cattle. Whoever regards this as human and right has no right to the title of human. Boom!
Boom. I mean, yeah.
This is the classic, libertarian line, which rights can't exist at the expense of other people's rights.
Yeah.
A right is something that can't exist at the expense of someone else's rights. So we've talked about free internet. The internet is a human right, or housing is a human right. But a blank out is coming when you ask, how does this happen? Who creates it? Who funds it? Because the answer is it's the labor of someone else that gets extracted, that gets
against their right,
their right, the right of their property.
And yeah, this, I mean, there's one line in particular here I think that's interesting, is Da, 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 da. Property. Okay. The doctrine that human rights are superior to property rights simply means that some human beings have the right to make property out of others. What do you think? What does she mean with this? Like, why does holding human rights over property rights equal in her mind to basically some people to enslave others? Or to make property
out of others.
Is this not the very libertarian kind of I own my body, therefore I own my labor power, therefore I own my property kind of thing? And by saying that human rights, so basically saying like I'm entitled to some shit that someone else has to produce for me. Like by doing so you're not just claiming that thing, but you're actually claiming a right over their body, because it's their body, and that made that thing, and like that thing didn't, it's the blank out thing. How was that thing made? Blank out. It's like, no, someone used their body and their time to make it. And so by you claiming human rights are superior to property rights, you're saying, some humans, and the incompetent ones, the ones who don't have,
who are quote deserving,
they have a right to own the more productive ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, purpose of government. Now we're getting into the little, the little shit.
The only proper purpose of a government is to protect man's rights, which means to protect him from physical violence. A proper government is only a policeman acting as an agent of man's self-defense, and as such may resort to force only against those who start the use of force. The only proper functions of a government are the police to protect you from criminals, the army to protect you from foreign invaders, and the courts to protect your property and contracts from breach or fraud by others. To settle disputes by rational rules according to objective law. But a government that initiates the employment of force against men who had forced no one, the employment of armed compulsion against disarmed victims, is a nightmare infernal machine designed to annihilate morality. Such a government reverses its only moral purpose and switches from the role of protector to the role of man's deadliest enemy, from the role of policeman to the role of a criminal vested with the right to the wielding of violence against victims deprived of the right of self-defense. Such a government substitutes for morality the following rule of social conduct. You may do whatever you please to your neighbor, provided your gang is bigger than his.
Yeah, so now she's losing me a bit. Because all these functions that she mentions here, like the police, the army, the courts, how are their authority not based on this exact principle she makes fun of in the last sentence here, which is they may do whatever they please provided their gang is bigger than yours, right? Like,
it's a they all have monopoly of violence.
The reason why the police is able to have this authority that no one can question is because simply on the face of it, they have the legal monopoly on the use of force, and the legal in that sentence comes in through the courts, right?
Yeah.
And so it's,
well, I feel like she's got the right intention. She says the only proper purpose of a government is to protect man's rights, which means to protect him, his physical violence, protect his property. But then
how is that police funded then? Right?
Exactly.
Is it not by infringing on this property right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like necessarily like obvious, completely obvious, like how she imagines this government being funded. But because a government doesn't necessarily mean, well, I mean, the definition of government from a libertarian perspective is like something that has a monopoly on violence, but that might not be what she means here. And saying like government, saying policeman, saying army, these are all like state terms for like these are state functions. But it's not that she's saying like explicitly here that like this government has to be funded by your the extraction of your property.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and she's not specifically hinting it. I guess just as soon as you start chipping away at that, that's kind of what it has to come down to. I feel like, because like if as soon as we say, but maybe she means that this government could be a voluntary thing where people all pay into the service, but now we're already talking about just a service, right? We're just talking about a company or something. Yeah. So yeah, I think in any meaningful sense of the word of government, this is a kind of stark contradiction. I feel here. Yeah.
But my point is that regardless of the word that she's chosen, she doesn't. I don't think it's necessary that she means that what she means by government here is not like an enterprise.
No, I don't think she means. I think she probably means like, because I think she's a kind of has that, because that's her like. Okay, so she has this.
I know.
Spat with Murray Rothbard and everything, and like she's a big minarchist. So, I just it feels like a bit of wishful thinking. Like, we've already established that you're not allowed to take people's property by force and everything, but except for this thing that we're like gonna define very roughly, and just it's gonna be fine, guys. It's not gonna expand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fair enough.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for the big Galt speech. There's another quote I wanted to highlight, which was funny. So as the plot progresses, Dagny, because Galt doesn't want to leave the world where Dagny still is in it because she loves her and blah blah blah. So essentially she like becomes obsessed with finding him, and eventually does so, but of course by doing so leads the police or the state to his address, where he was like disguised as a worker in her company all along, and they capture Galt and they torture him and shit, and then the quote unquote good guys, Dagny and Hank Reardon and everyone, they go on this mission to rescue John Galt, and within doing so, there is this one scene that kind of tests these previously established rules of non-aggression and when it's okay to use violence and so on. Mm-hmm. So basically there's this security guard who's kind of blanking out when they say that they're going to go in and rescue their friend, and this happens. Go ahead.
I'll count to 3, she said, then I'll shoot. Wait, I haven't said yes or no, he cried, cringing tighter against the door, as if immobility of mind and body were his best protection. 1, she counted. She could see his eyes staring at her in terror. 2, she could see that the gun held less terror for him than the alternative she offered. 3, calmly and impersonally, she, who would have hesitated to fire at an animal, pulled the trigger and fired straight at the heart of a man who had wanted to exist without the responsibility of consciousness. Her gun was equipped with a silencer. There was no sound to attract anyone's attention, only the thud of a body falling at her feet. Boom. Fuck around, find out, bitch.
Fuck around, find out. Okay, so why was it quote unquote okay or necessary or acceptable to shoot this guy?
I'm
Nick, why do you hate existence? Why are you an evil?
I'm trying to say this whilst also having like police body cam footage replaying in my mind. Like, stay still, I'm gonna shoot. And then they don't stay still, and then they get shot. So she said, well, she gives him good warning. She said, I'm gonna count to 3 and then I'm gonna kill you.
Well, so did Lennon. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't think this is great. I forgot the context of this. Who is this guy?
So this is like a security guard guarding where they are torturing John Galt.
Yeah.
And they want to go in and rescue him.
And why does he not want to move?
And they're like, well, we're gonna go in and get our friend. And you have no, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be said, but it's like the premise is like, you have no right to take this most virtuous man because of his virtue. And this specific guard even is like, he doesn't even really know what's going on, but that, I guess that's his ultimate sin. Like, he wants
the responsibility of consciousness.
Yeah. It's like, you know, if you're like, is it okay to kill the guards outside Hitler's bunker, even if they're like nice guys and they haven't really thought about what they're even a part of? Like, they just like eating apple strudel, and I don't know.
It's what makes this complicated for me is it's like there's whether he has the consciousness or not, he probably does have the consciousness, but lives like blanking out to it. You know, obviously, if you're like a soldier and you're like, if you're there's consignment, like you get forced into fighting, like should you accept the responsibility for being on the front line when, you know, the consequence of not fighting is death or jail? You know, I think that's kind of the same thing as what's going on here, right? And, you know, yesterday we talked about Ayn Rand taking social welfare, and like the justification for that being like, you know, I'm already being stolen from, therefore it's justifiable for me to participate in the system, right?
To really take back the part that was taken from me.
Yeah, to take back. And in a way, it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like that kind of connects up here too. It's like, you know, is it really responsible to like participate in taking social welfare if just because you've had taxes taken from you in the past? Like, you're still participating in the system, like you're still legitimizing it.
What's the parallel with the guard here?
The parallel with the guard here is that he is creating, you know, this scenario where this place is guarded. He's guarding this place, and he's making the choice to do that. And he's in a way he's forced to do it, right? Like he's forced to participate.
Yeah, although I guess in that moment he could step aside.
He could, yeah, he could. But then to step aside would mean death.
Yeah, I guess like to abandon his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. So the line here is like, she wouldn't fire at an animal, but at a man who had wanted to exist without the responsibility of consciousness. I guess even then, like, the ultimate justification is also because of self-defense here, right? Like, it's, or like defense of John Galt, because like you wouldn't say that, like, if they weren't guarding anyone, right? If there was like if there was just a piñata inside,
yeah,
you probably wouldn't have all these characters going in here just shooting at these people simply because they wanted to exist without the responsibility of consciousness, right? Like, that's not really the takeaway. Like, you wouldn't read this and like go like, hey mom, like a fucking Eric Cartman kind of like, like, what do you think about progressive income tax? He's like, oh, I think the rich should pay the share fair. Shoot her in the head, like, bitch wanted to exist without the right of, the responsibility of consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's because
then it just sounds like this is kind of a flourish. The exists without responsibility of consciousness is just a flourish, like a literary flourish that's not really related to why it's okay that he was killed.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Anyway, I thought this scene was kind of like fairly important.
Yeah. Fair.
Okay.
So then what happens? John Galt gets rescued. Society collapses. They return to their little utopia. And then the end of the book is the book is finished when they basically return. They're like, let's start again. The road is cleared.
So, final thoughts.
Where to begin? I think it's a very long book. I think it's a book that really deserves a serious reading. I think that there are a surprising number of people who have read this book from front to cover, and which takes a really, considerable effort to get through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And come out of it with like no understanding of what the book's actually talking about. And I think if you're able to go through it and actually kind of like honestly try and understand what's being said, you'll get a lot from it. I've come to understand the objectivism, like Rand's objectivism, a bit better. I think I could probably steelman it in an argument. And I think generally, like, the book provides like a lot of Zarathustra-esque truth bombs that you would be doing yourself a favor to remember, to print out and put on your wall or some shit.
The thing about lying and stuff.
Think about lying, the thing about existence. A is A. Like reading the book, I've had quite a lot of like quite. I feel quite profound is the wrong word. Profound is too much of a word, but thought about things, my relationships with people, my like career, a lot of things in a very different way from like especially Galt's speech. Yeah,
I think from the libertarian viewpoint, it's interesting because she kind of gives an original justification for property rights, or I guess just this rejection of coercive force that is not exactly the same as the standard like Rothbardian derivation from like human rights. It's very similar, like this whole like man has to exist within scarcity and nature, and so therefore he has to act according to his rational interest. Like that part I think is very similar, but the step, and maybe this is just putting it into extreme words, but the step further to say that not doing so is to basically to serve death.
Right.
Or to service death, or what?
Kind of the Nietzschean flourish.
Yeah.
On top of this like libertarian ethos, which is probably what connects the two. Yeah, and then like this Greek influence as well. Yeah,
which is so like
logic.
How like let's make a very extreme example. Let's say I have a college professor who I'm kind of on friendly terms with. And they're like, yeah, he's an okay guy, but like at the end of the day, what do I really think of him? Like, I think the modus operandi he has chosen to provide the means of his subsistence is a striving towards death. To really put it bluntly, like, he's like blanking out in a way of like, relying on other people to provide his income through taxation to him, in a coercive way, and in a way that clearly, without having people force like to do this job, you have to get this degree, and that's why this guy has this job. Like, let's not pretend that all the professors would still be employed if that wasn't the case, right? Like,
exactly.
We wouldn't all be going to college for 4 years for the same fucking thing. So,
and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so like, isn't that premise this like, you have to provide for me, and you have to share your income with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the negation of this ASA thing, right? That's the striving towards death.
Yeah.
And so I kind of try to keep that at the back of my mind sometimes to rile myself up when I'm too calm in the worst way possible.
Can't have that enough. Yeah. Make yourself angry button.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, it's like you make myself angry button. So I thought, that was a kind of original contribution to this like libertarian ethos.
Yeah.
And it's what made me, I haven't shared this on the podcast, but I'm flirting with this idea of moving to the Bahamas at some point in the future.
I think you have told. Oh yeah, you have told me. Yeah, not shared on the podcast.
And I don't know. This will be interesting to look back on. I don't know if this will work out, but the career I'm going for won't require me to work in an office and be there physically.
Yeah.
I will have to be there physically, but I wouldn't. It's not like the kind of 365 days a year be in an office job. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that if I move to the Bahamas, I can enjoy the perks of no income tax and no capital gains tax.
Yeah.
The reasoning being, and this was kind of Alice really pointed me towards this, is that if I, it's actually immoral to supply them. Let's just say them.
Yeah.
To supply them with the means to destroy.
We don't mean the Jews, by the way. That's not what Phil means by the.
That's not what I mean.
Be perfectly clear.
Let's not say them. This looks bad in 2025. I'm talking about Israel only, guys.
No,
kidding. No, the government, of course. The government, the tax man is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like to pay taxes is actually immoral because you're supplying. First of all, you're feeding into this ASB ethos, but you're also giving the machine the tools to destroy you.
Yeah.
You're feeding the machine the weapons and the monopoly on violence that it is able to levy against you to extract those taxes in the first place.
You're giving them Raiden's gift certificate.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
binding yourself.
So I was like, I have to go to the Bahamas. Anyway, we'll see if that works out.
Yeah. All right. Stay tuned.
Fuck you.
We have the spin-off podcast. Phil's Bahama Bonanza.
Bahama Bonanza. In 3 years. Wait 3 years, guys.
3 years, yeah. All right. Thank you very much for listening. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.